Welcome to episode 15 of the JustUs Podcast. For now, it'll just be me and Tobs 26. Although I did say Mal, I meant to say now.
Hello.
And for today's episode, we'll be talking about Sucker Punch, Bloodshot 2020, Rio, and Doom Eternal. So, Sucker Punch. This movie has been controversial towards the average moviegoer just because of some fantasy crap that they talk about, or the fact that, well, if it's depiction of women. But truthfully, I don't really see that sort of argument. Do you?
To be honest, no. Although I can see why it is divisive. It really portrays strong topics in a very interesting way. And yeah, it may be pleasing to the eye, but not specifically pleasing to male public, It's just pleasing because it's Zack Snyder and his style.
On top of that, despite the fact that people would actually criticize the way it depicts women, I'd say this movie does a better job of depicting women as stronger lead characters better than most movies do. And the key secret is the fact that Zack doesn't even brag about it because, of course, it's always great to have female protagonists. It's always great to see the opposite sex get represented. But truthfully speaking, much like it would be annoying to see people constantly rubbing their face about how macho they are, it's also annoying to hear people brag about how they act like they're like the bomb just because they put a woman on screen.
Yeah, I feel like if you are going to brag about using a strong female character, you're basically not acting in a very equal way because you're just doing it like you always say it for the cloud. They're just pushing that on the front to basically gain traction, and that's it. They don't do it out of passion, out of their own values. They just say it.
And unfortunately, we get greeted to stuff like, if you don't agree with me, then you're sexist and you're a meanie head and I hate you. On top of cliche, cringy comments like, yas, queen, or girl, I, with reactions towards the actress.
Get him, girl! Slay him, queen!
Oh my god. Slay him. Oh boy. But yeah, Zack Snyder, despite doing a better job at depicting a female character as a strong female character, I'd say on par with the likes of, Princess Leia, Ripley, Sarah Connor. For some reason, he still gets shat on by the average person. Probably because he misinterpreted the movie, as mentioned earlier, but I think that what makes this movie weird is just the setting itself.
Yeah. It is an uncomfortable setting because it is, fantastically realistic. You know what I try to say?
But truthfully speaking, this movie definitely feels like a big departure from what I'm used to with Zack Snyder, because when I think of Zack, I think of Dawn of the Dead. I think of, 300. I think of Watchmen. I think of his DC stuff, aside from Watchmen. Which, kind of weird saying that, because Watchmen is DC, but it doesn't feel like DC.
Yeah, it feels more like Vertigo, which is another thing, maybe.
And part of me might be a bit of a hypocrite by saying that this isn't my most favorite Zack Snyder movie of all time. But of course, there's also Legends of the Guardians. But I keep forgetting that that's a Snyder film. But truthfully speaking, despite how weird this movie is and how it might not be my most favorite film of all time, I think it holds up better than people give it credit to, as mentioned previously, with the fact that it depicts female characters strongly and in a way without bragging about it. But how about the story?
Well, it starts off with Baby Doll arriving to this place, which is not explicitly said what it is at first, but it is kind of a psychiatric home, like an asylum. And she starts bonding with a lot of other females and starts suffering from abuse inside of those, that inside of that system. And, well, lots of shit happens, but as a way of escapism, she constantly starts like imagining these fantastical scenarios of her either battling with samurais or dragons, and that's what Zack Snyder does amazing. But
yeah,
that's a summary of the story.
And going deeper than it, the thing that kind of throws people off and pisses them off, at first rightfully so, is the fact that Baby Doll basically gets raped, tortured. But what they forget about is the fact that she gets her revenge, basically. I mean, she doesn't let the person get away.
At the end of the movie.
Yeah, like she basically gives them what for, and they're done for. Because, if this was some other director, they probably would have left some other guy to do the job, but Zack proved that this girl can definitely kick ass. And it just seems weird that people would immediately be turned off by it. Rightfully so. I mean, when I first saw Sucker Punch, it just feels very strange. But the more I think about it, the more I start to see, I see the intention, which they do a great job of displaying. Because despite how trippy the film might be, despite how weird it is, I see the message quite clearly about how strong this character is, like Baby Doll, and more importantly, how she's able to give the guy what he fucking deserves at the end.
Yeah. Now that you say this, I kind of believe always that Zack is ahead of a turn, ahead of its time itself. Because, last year, a movie called Promising Young Woman got released, and it's very similar to Sucker Punch if you analyze it superficially. And the only difference is that it got praised as hell, and it was directed by a woman. So you can kind of tell that it depends also on who is the head of that project. And also, what do the critics think about it?
Yeah, of course. But, the critics can do 3 things. Or do one thing with 3 words. Suck my dick.
Sucker dick.
No, Sucker Punch. That was, Sucker dick. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, that's Futa moment right there. Okay.
No,
this is already weird enough, but going in that route was even weirder. I wish the other boys were here to hear this. But, yeah, it's just a film that takes some getting used to. But even if you're not an immediate fan of it, or if you're not still a fan, that's understandable. In fact, I think understanding it, but without being a huge fan of it, is better than going this movie sucks. This movie is a very it's family. Mother, I crapped my pants.
Yeah.
There are better
the people
ways.
Who complain the most about that movie isn't even women. I mean, the people who complain the most about that movie are either geeks and nerds or females who haven't watched it and just listen stuff in anywhere.
So
it's very strange.
So you mentioned that Zack was ahead of his time, and it makes sense too. I almost get the feeling that he doesn't even come from our current time period. He's almost a time traveler that wants to see how the human race would react, and ultimately, with the exception of you and me, and the rest of the JustUs Podcast and our friends, the human race isn't prepared for his sort of stuff.
Nope.
And
Yeah.
it ultimately
As you
seems
can
kind of
tell.
it ultimately seems kind of odd when you go from like Watchmen, which feels like a film that people generally like, to Sucker Punch, which just feels almost foreign in a way because of the concept. But when you condense all down, and when you go bit by bit, if you have the confidence to do so, you actually see the true meaning of the film. And ultimately, it makes you like feel bad about seeing it at first. I'll admit that when I was
Yeah.
obsessed with like trying to follow the cloud of the internet just so I can get myself some like followers back then as a younger punk ass Twitter user, like I didn't really seem that confident in Sucker Punch. But like truthfully speaking, when I saw it later on, I started thinking, you know what? Like I feel bad for like just joining the bandwagon and talking shit about it because ultimately there's stuff that is enjoyable and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But more importantly, like it doesn't talk down to its audience. It does a much better job of depicting a strong female character. Now, admittedly, Baby Doll might not have the same attachment to us as someone like Wonder Woman from Batman v Superman, Snyder Cut, and even her solo movie when it comes to Snyder female characters. Nor would she have like the same level of fame that someone like Princess Leia or Padme or Ahsoka Tano, pretty much Star Wars characters, like characters I already mentioned before, like Ripley or Sarah Connor. But at least she has a special, I don't want to say cult following because, stupid verifies like a Snyder cultist and other stupid noises like that. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Sucker Punch itself may not be like my most favorite movie of all time. Visually speaking, it's great. And maybe I should restate that. Like, it might not be my most favorite Zack Snyder movie of all time, but it's far from the whiny bitching that a lot of people give it. Because if there's one thing I have to say about this film, as mentioned earlier, is the fact that they know how to do a good job of depicting characters that we're not used to. And further
I agree.
rewatches made me have a bigger appreciation for them, especially in the time period where people all of a sudden try to give a crap about female representation just because they want to act like they are the first ones, even though it's been done before and without bragging about it.
Hmm. Yeah. I totally agree. And the bigger concept of Sucker Punch is all condensed in the ending. So just watching the first hour won't make you love the movie. You just need to watch it all. That's the thing, maybe. That people just watch half an hour and they say, "What the fuck is this?" and they close it or something.
Yes,
So yeah,
kind of like how people first saw Batman v Superman, a theatrical cut, where it was like confusing at some parts, it was too long, they didn't get to the fights, blah blah blah. Though it is a little more understandable for Sucker Punch because it seems like more of a foreign concept to the average viewer, but to those that are like the Chad Snyder enjoyer or movie enjoyer compared to the average movie fan or nerd, they won't be disappointed, especially if they're the meme called Monkey. By the way, after the first April video, we're gonna do Monsterverse. So hope you enjoyed that sneak peek. So overall, I gotta give Sucker Punch a 7 out of 10. Not my favorite Snyder movie of all time, but that doesn't make it a bad movie overall. It's ahead of its time, and you know, like they say, people wonder how it'd be like if it was released earlier or later. I think putting it in 2011 is proof that Snyder is ready to be ahead of his time compared to most people.
yeah, agreed. I will also give like around 7, between 7 or 8. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I want to. And also, just one tiny thing left. The movie is about how geeks and nerds nowadays contemplate women as objects and how they are always objectified. So it is a criticism of that. And people wanted to make this like it is more of that. It's not true. So just don't look at Sucker Punch that way. Not anymore.
It's almost like a, I don't want to say commentary because people abuse the word commentary and made it less cool, but it's more of like a reminder that, this ain't the kind of movie you're thinking about because much like the way the setting is itself, Sucker Punch as a movie is about mind games, and it's definitely much smarter than we give credit for. Hell, it took me a few rewatches to get used to it, and seeing it now makes me realize that's a good film.
Yep.
Next up, we're going to be talking about Bloodshot 2020. Oh boy, now this movie is a rare instance of a comic book film not involving Marvel nor DC, especially in this time period. Now, what is your earliest memory about Bloodshot or Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel? My earliest memory of Vin Diesel is the Disney movie of him being a nanny.
Oh God! Is it the pacifier?
He has a pacifier. Like there's a scene maybe. I don't know. It's just an absurd movie. I remember watching a lot on TV.
Well, I remember seeing like a part where it's like those kids were like at Costco and they were trying to go over like Boy Scout cookies or whatever. Like I don't remember that movie. Felt kind of I don't know what else to say, but
oh wait, the pacifier is the name of the movie in North America. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Can't believe I remember.
Oh, I didn't know because it has so many stupid translations. That movie, so many stupid translations. Like here in South America, I think it was like no, I don't know how to make that instant translation, but it is always super dumb.
Oh God. Oh wait, another memory I have about Vin Diesel was seeing him in a movie called Triple X. No, not that kind of Triple X. But it's like I remember him like talking with this girl, like this chick, like his deep voice, and it was like connected to a trailer for the Spider-Man movie. Like it was on this VHS tape, which I remember seeing along with the likes of I think it was Stuart Little and friggin' Spider-Man: The New Adventures, or the MTV one, and Stanley talking about it. Like we're talking about like other like Vin Diesel stuff, and we haven't even gotten to like our thoughts on the movie. So this movie isn't that bad, honestly. Like it is what it is. It's an action movie that feels like a callback to the past of action movies from the 2000s, but weirdly, it just feels weird to go back to this movie after being used to a time period where like we have stuff like the MCU, the DCEU, the Fox X-Men films in their prime time. Like this fits in nicely with the 2000 films. Like it fits in well with Spider-Man, X-Men, Blade, maybe even Batman Begins. Whereas here, it just seems kind of unusual.
Yeah. And besides, it's good to have diversity inside the genre. And although the movie kind of has like this forgettable impact, because I don't see too many people talking about it, it is, like you said, what it is.
Yeah. But that doesn't make it a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just
No.
like as an action movie itself, it's on par with the likes of Upgrade and yeah, well not the movie, yeah, like it's just pretty much how I think about it with Upgrade. Like both movies are good, they're enjoyable to watch, but they don't really have as much, you know, rewatch value as you'd think. But it's kind of a shame when
Hmm.
I thought about rewatch because what tempted me to watch the movie more was a trailer for it or like a commercial where the character from Upgrade was like beating up the characters from the film, but their heads were replaced with the solo characters, which that itself was funny as hell. And because I didn't give a rat's ass about the solo movie, I thought, I want to see your movie. You seem more interesting, and I liked it, but ultimately didn't want to rewatch. But
Not all movies are made to be rewatched.
it is true. But it is a shame because you have something like Vin Diesel, Bloodshot, and part of me just wants to like give it a lot of respect and praise because like we're just used to all these like big brand movies that feel sort of homogenous at this point, and this one feels a little more distinct.
Yeah.
But how does the story hold up for the film itself?
Hmm. Oh, you tell me.
Well, personally, I think it is like a been there, done that sort of story about a guy who's super strong, gets heavily killed in battle, and is revived with all these enhanced powers that can help him uh, do lots of cool shit, but he needs to be used as a weapon by a big bad corporation. Now, does that sound like I'm going to talk about?
Corporations.
Is that going to sound like I'm going to talk about how corporations are evil or whatever? No, but what it is just basically the fact that like it does what it needs to do for the story. You know, Bloodshot himself is basically a part of like a successful project, and considering the fact that he used a human, it's even greater. But that being said, like I'm just glad that they actually gave this sort of action hero like a thing that requires him to have a weakness of sorts because I think they call them nanites that he pretty much has to like get them like replaced or recharged or else he's gonna get messed up. Which I like that. We like sometimes it feels like characters can get away with a lot of stuff, but they gotta have a weakness that can keep them down a bit. So
Yeah.
like this is definitely more than just some sort of what they call him Gary Sue sort of situation, and kind of reminds
Uh-huh.
me in a bit about uh, Beast Wars, which may or may not be covered in the podcast, where because the characters are much smaller, the robots have to be in their beast modes when they're nearby large amounts of energon because they can't absorb it all.
Okay.
And it's pretty much like paint by the numbers in a way. Have to go through a lot of action, have to look for lots of bad guys to take down, and ultimately, it's not too shabby. But
Hmm.
the film definitely caters towards Vin Diesel himself because let's be real here. Most of the characters you probably won't give a rat's ass about, but because Vin Diesel is involved in this movie, you're more than guaranteed to want to see it just for him.
Yeah.
And
But I don't know how much the movie maybe like faithful or makes justice to the comics. I have no idea because I haven't read neither the comics nor I watched the movie. But what is your guess? Let's say.
well, for something like Bloodshot, because it doesn't have as big of a following as say Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk, I'd say he could do a
Mhm.
decent job at being different from the comics if it wanted to, because like sure, I wouldn't want Bloodshot to look like a Minecraft character when he wakes up, but
See.
like you're gonna want Superman to have the blue suit with the red logo and the gold border on it when you first meet him, and no, that is not a jab at the Snyder cut, so don't take that out of context, people. And much like how you want Batman to have like the logo on his chest and the ears and the cape, and how you want Spider-Man to have like the red and blue suit and the spider logo and the friggin' lenses, and no, that's how to jab at Spider-Man 3 symbiote suit, so don't take that out of context again. But you can't make fun of Far From Home. But either way, stop taking that out of context! Wait, has anyone taken this out of context before? I don't know.
Hopefully not.
But
How would we cancel?
But ultimately, because Bloodshot isn't as big as any of those characters, and of course Hulk, he needs to be green, big, angry. But because he's not as big as those kind of characters, like I'd say it's okay for him to be deviated somewhat from the source material. After all, like how big is the lore for Bloodshot compared to those guys? I mean, okay, maybe not a fair comparison, but how about we compare him to Spawn?
Yeah.
Because
and Spawn got his movie, right?
yeah, back in '97, and we're still waiting for the proper one. Hopefully, McFarlane can do it.
Yeah, I'm also waiting for that one.
Now,
but I see the comparison is pretty similar.
Yeah, but like the truth is the fact that compared to those guys, like Spawn and Bloodshot have more in common by being these sort of big, small comic book heroes. They're popular, but they're not super popular. They don't have like a huge franchise. I mean, they have comics on the shelves, but they don't have action figures on the shelves. They don't have like a ton of cartoons in their resume.
Mm-hmm.
And while Bloodshot is going to have a sequel at some point, which we'll talk about in a bit, they might not have the same level of making a cinematic universe as those, for examples, from Marvel and DC.
Yeah, you can take more liberties, more freedom, because not so many people is extremely attached to the character. So it gives you the opportunity to experiment. I like this type of superhero movies, like aside from the mainstream.
On a side note, I have to say that, like, despite the fact that the way the character might have like one or two inaccuracies, like that's nothing, as mentioned earlier, because they might be like this super big Bloodshot fan on Twitter that's complaining about how this one scene from a movie isn't entirely accurate to this comic panel they took out of Google.com with the watermark. But ultimately, it's nothing small, because I'm just glad that there isn't like this big Bloodshot community. Otherwise, we'd be here all day talking about how toxic it might be and how bitchy it is with comic accuracy.
No, I mean, comic accuracy can get shoved down Joss Whedon's ass. I don't fucking care.
And Jeff Johns and John Berg and Toby Emmerich and Sarnoff.
Yeah, but that should be done by a woman. Let's not get into that territory.
Yeah, let's have Baby Doll do it. But now the next question would be, like, since this was like one of the last few movies that popped up before COVID got bad, did you see it at home or in theaters?
I think it got released just before the pandemic got huge, so there was a chance to see it on cinemas.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I saw the movie. Honestly, I don't remember if I saw the movie in theaters or not. Like, it's been a while, because most of my memory is just like us, like thinking to myself, yeah, we're gonna go home for a week. I'm gonna spend time with like my family for a bit and enjoy having a break, because Roosevelt was like Robert Morris and Roosevelt were sort of sucking dick in my classes, and I was gonna get a job still. But honestly, like my mind was mostly focused on me, like like having a job or not, and kind of disappointed that because Roosevelt got bought out by Robert Morris, I lost my newspaper job at the school. back in 2020.
Mm.
And what that has to do with Bloodshot? Well, I would have used some of the money I had to buy some tickets, but I thought, oh crap, I'm gonna have to go home instead.
Oh.
But I did see the movie later on in like DVD or home video, which is fine. And you know, regardless of like the way theaters handle COVID or not, like at least they did find a way to release the movie because
Yeah.
like just so
Well,
we can get it out of the
today,
way and enjoy it. Bloodshot is a decent but not mind-blowing movie. It's great for those that like the character. It's great for those that are interested in seeing more non-Marvel, non-DC characters, but is it the groundbreaking comic book film of the 2020s? No. And before you ask, we already know what the answer is, and you're gonna probably say, "Oh, we know the answer." We know the answer before you do. Like we know what it is. ZSJL. There. But ultimately, this movie is like not plain. Of course, it's not plain, but it's not mind blowing. It didn't break any new ground, but it's cool. I enjoyed my watch, and Vin Diesel is a pretty cool guy overall. But that being said,
yes.
would the Valiant cinematic universe be as big as we're hoping it to be? Because, well, who made the film? Sony?
Um, Possibly.
Yeah, it is
Was
Sony.
it? No, it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it
Sony.
was Sony.
Yeah, because like they have quite the cinematic universe juggling to take care of. Because they've got Venom, like the Sony universe of Marvel characters, and now they got this. Now, I hate to be like those sort
Yeah.
of cucks on Collider talking about, oh, this non-Disney stuff is going to fail because it's not my brand. Now, buy my t-shirts, you dickheads. But this might not be as successful as the Sony universe of Marvel characters. Now, will the SUMC be as big as either Marvel or DC's own cinematic universes? No, but I do believe that with stuff like Venom, with stuff like Kraven the Hunter, it might be big. How big? Who knows? Because Venom was very successful in the box office. Now, of course, critics can, like go fuck themselves. I don't care about their scores, but like Venom did very well. Into the Spider Verse did decently.
Yeah, for an animated movie, it did quite well.
And on top of that, like they've got two films that have yet to be made or released, rather. Venom: Let There Be Carnage and Morbius. Yeah, those two films have yet to be put out in theaters because like Sony is more interested in getting the money. They fear that they're gonna bomb during the pandemic, which is understandable. But like they already got prepared for this sort of stuff. I mean, they've got two films. They got more films to work with, and of course, they're doing the Spider-Man No Way Home movie with the MCU. But as for Valiant Pictures or the Valiant Cinematic Universe, I'm not sure if it'd be as good because, like, how many other comic brands do they have aside from Bloodshot?
Not so many.
I'm trying to remember how big they're, like, how many brands they have, but, like, I think they also have, like, Harbinger, but that was used by. That was used by Paramount. Like, this stuff is just kind of weird because like what would the like I know they have like crossovers and all that, and I hate to talk like these characters don't have anything worth mentioning, but it just doesn't seem as like it is ambitious for sure. Like I appreciate them trying to be as big as Marvel or DC, but like it just doesn't have that sort of like commitment to it. And now,
Yeah.
and before people say like I dick ride both universes, like no, like I'm excited to see Power Rangers be a shared TV movie universe without the need of Toei. like, but like the truth is that Power Rangers has more stuff to work with. You have like you can make a multiverse that has the previous seasons, and you can make this new series be both movies and TV shows that might cross over. But with
Yeah, true.
Valiant, like maybe it's just me not knowing much about Valiant beyond being aware of like the Bloodshot movie existing, but it's just I don't know. It just seems kind of like weird to break down as someone that's like a noob beyond just me thinking, oh, this movie is decent. And I guess we'll end off there. Like the Bloodshot movie itself is a cool film, but it's not anything special as we mentioned. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Not a perfect film, nor my groundbreaking one, but I can't be that pissed off about it. I wouldn't say it's inoffensive though, because like, I mean, what? It's not like it's not rated G, it's rated R, but you know what I'm getting at. Next up, we're going to be talking about Rio, the 2011 20th Century Fox movie, and it's kind of interesting that we go from two movies that are meant for older audiences to this family-friendly film.
Quite strange, but I'm not complaining.
Now then, Rio. This movie is underrated, and kind of a shame that we haven't continued with a third movie after the second film.
Yeah, it could have completed a trilogy, and it would have been nice because nowadays animated movies are just dreadful. So, Blue Skies is interesting. I always liked them. And Rio itself always felt close to home because it is actually close to where I live.
Yeah,
Uh,
Brazil. Now, to quote what George W. Bush said in my trailer, don't put any going to Brazil memes because both Rio, the movie, as well as the place itself, is pretty cool.
yep. And it reflects what it is like being in Rio quite well. It like you also have the favelas, you know what that is.
Yeah, but like the things
Those
that,
places are scary as shit.
oh yeah, but one thing that I like about Rio is the fact that like I hate to talk shit about a movie like Milan or uh well I don't care like I was about to say Jungle Book but I don't care about Jungle Book. Like a movie like Milan might seem like a little too like it doesn't quite have that same sort of like ethnic feel, whereas Rio feels more proud of its ethnicity in a way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that's one of the benefits of a film like this because, like, it depicts two characters that live in the U.S., presumably going to this place, Rio, Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and it kind of almost feels like we, who, like most of us who've probably seen the movie in the U.S., are going there for the first time and almost encouraging people to go check it out in person.
Yeah, no, never thought of it like that. It's super cool actually. Um,
Yeah.
and it has good music, good songs. It makes you feel inside the environment,
Yeah, and
inside of the
ultimately,
jungle.
and what I like most about it is the fact that it's like it. You have both like two sides of it. You have like the big city, which feels like a nice departure from the American cities in terms of feel, and you have like the streets that are more casual.
You're more
Like
prehistoric.
yeah, in a way, but like, it just feels nice that the movie that they usually say is for kids does a place like real justice. But aside from gushing about the place itself, one thing I like about it is just a reminder about how we need to give attention towards the endangered species of animals.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Blue, the bird, not the dog from Blue's Clues. Blue is is one of those birds that needs to be with another bird of its species to mate and reproduce for future generations to come. Which, as we all know, they succeed in doing that. But ultimately, even like aside from me mentioning the fact that it's a way for people to get a better understanding of how Rio is for those who aren't familiar with the country or the city. We also get that feeling with the birds themselves because you have one bird that's in the city that lives in like a normal neighborhood, a normal town, whereas the other bird is more used toward the outdoors. And one bird is like very shy, very reserved. The other one's more out there, more engaging.
Yeah.
Also,
Actually, Blue isn't able to fly up until the final act.
yeah, and it also makes sense as a way for him to better embrace being a free bird.
Yep. Because he was always treated like a pet or as an endangered species being overly taken care of.
Yeah, and I have to give credit towards the performance of Alexander Luthor Jr., aka Jesse Eisenberg, that he's able to capture that sort of that reserved, sort of shy, feeling about his character quite
Wait,
well.
he does the voice of Blue?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it is. And just realizing now, they could easily have
Yeah.
him. Like I could easily imagine someone saying his lines. All we need now is just Blue to wear the prison uniform and have him basically give threats about that the bell cannot be unrung. I think I think someone made like a fan art of Blue in the same sort of prison uniform that Lex was in Batman v Superman, except whereas Lex was very like insane, Blue looked more sinister. It looked more evil. Like he made like an evil smile while he was doing the same pose Lex did. And I also realized that with Jeremy Irons as Scar for the Lion King, he can be Alfred.
Yeah.
So when he's not trying to kill his brother, Mufasa, he can help Bruce Wayne out while being a lion. And hopefully Bruce Wayne doesn't compare him to a furry because Scar is not a furry. He's just a cartoon lion.
That is debatable.
But we'll go with the fact that he's not a furry because he is not even a furry. He's just a talking lion. Anyways, Rio. Going back to it, I like the other characters as well. I mean, the dog, I think was a dog voiced by George Lopez.
The bulldog.
The bulldog, was he voiced by George Lopez or was it somebody else? I think it was like one of the birds. Like I think Toucan was voiced by George Lopez.
I don't know.
Because I remember one of the voices being for George Lopez, and maybe it was a Toucan.
Raphael. Who was Raphael?
Like maybe it was maybe George Lopez was a toucan because I'm starting to remember, and he's sort of got that big pop. He's got like this big poppy feel to him. Like he's like a big Spanish man. He's like kind of a big guy. He's got like a big family of little kids, and his wife as well, and they're a big family. And yeah, I'm starting to think that's him. And he's got like this little bird friend who's not Tweety, but sort of looks like him. And he's got like a little glass bottle cap for a hat, which is cool.
Yeah, Nico.
They're a cool duo, and of course we also got the evil bird, who kind of reminds me of Nigel from Finding Nemo. except he's pretty much the
Don't
one.
say the word.
No, that's not. I'm not gonna say like I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember him like singing about it, like how he like craps on the people and blames it on the seagulls in the song. But I think he's pretty much trying to like I forgot what it was. He's trying to like, go after other animals because he wants to be on top of the species or something.
Yeah, it was pretty generic, but it didn't revolve around the movie. The villain wasn't the main thing, so it was okay.
Plus, I have to say that even though it's just like CGI, like the way they depicted or like the birds dancing and flying together in Rio is just very splendid. It's like nice and colorful as it should be with birds. I mean, we're not talking
Yeah,
about crows. We're talking about vibrant birds, vibrant toucans, parakeets, and other sorts of things that go tweet tweet in the place in the rainforest. It's very beautiful, I have to say, and though it kind of weirdly reminds me of Madagascar, except you're not in Africa, we're in Brazil, and it's mostly birds,
yeah,
not zoo animals. And of course, mentioning Mustafa and Scar would be like a parallel to mentioning Alex the Lion, and we're getting off track here. So I'm just going to say that Rio itself is a nice film that, in a way, does in a way does a great job of being a counterpart or like a counterpoint towards the more familiar Ice Age series. Now, Ice Age is very popular
yeah,
with people, but
yeah. I miss Ice Age, and that time of Blue Sky was really interesting. They did very different movies and all related to animals. Like you had Happy Feet, Ice Age,
it wasn't
Surf's Up.
wasn't Happy Feet like Warner Brothers?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I thought it was possibly Blue Sky.
Yeah, they also did like Peanuts and Horton, but those are based on more familiar franchises. In terms of like the more original stuff, it's mainly just Rio and Ice Age, and there's also robots too, but that's sort of forgotten about because like, I don't know, like Robots was a decent film, and I wouldn't mind revisiting it for a podcast episode. But it's just like to me, my most familiar stuff is just Toy Story and Shrek and Ice Age for my big animated films.
Yeah,
But where's Rio placed? I'd say it's like placed in the second tier, next to Monsters Inc.
yeah, I
and
could agree with
uh,
that.
and whatever else that was successful with Madagascar. That's in the second tier as well of animated films from
Mhm.
each big company that does animated films. Now, will we cover the sequel at some point? Maybe in 3 years down the road, but don't count on us to do that. But at least we're like confirming that we're not sure if we'll do it or not because Obama went back and forth on one of the earlier trailers by saying, "Oh, expect them to talk about Deadpool 2 in 2013," even though he meant to say 2023. He was like, maybe I don't know, stuff like that.
Come on, Obama. Greenlit Rio 3.
we need that at some point, even if it's going to be under Disney Plus or whatever.
Hopefully. Now it is Disney, right?
Yeah,
Right? Like,
Blue Sky is part of Fox, and henceforth Fox is part of Disney. So
ah,
yeah, and the second thing is that they shut it down. I think there's a movie that was made that revolved around like diversity, and Disney shut it down. Like that's strange for a company that's obsessed with diversity. Wouldn't you expect them to release a film that would have, well, I don't know, been sort of like that, like sort of based around that? Like it just seems strange that they wouldn't want to do that.
yeah. They always do something in the back while they put a curtain saying BLM or, talking about the Asian hate. Who knows? Corporations. going back to Bloodshot, they need to be destroyed.
Well, in the case of the Bloodshot one, they can't use him as a weapon. But in this case, they got to be called out for their hypocrisy and be hired by more genuine people. And now, what does that have to do with Rio? Hell if I know, but maybe Blue would probably give them the middle feather for being bullshits.
Middle feather.
And finally, we'll be talking about Doom Eternal. Now, this video game was made last year, and considering the fact that it was released around the same time or in the same day as Animal Crossing New Horizons, we surprisingly got a wholesome collab between the two fan bases where they helped each other out, especially during the pandemic. But we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, you would say like how those two fandoms work together while the Sonic and Birds of Prey fandom was just fighting all over Twitter.
Yeah, I mentioned that in like a video on the things that sort of made 2020 bearable. And that was one of those things, like making fun of the Sonic and Birds of Prey fans arguing with each other. I mean, I think I mentioned that, the Sonic movie isn't that great. Like, it's not mind-blowing, but it is better than Birds of Prey just because it's more... admittedly, like, Sonic's just like a little basic film, whereas Birds of Prey is just, typical movie that says, if you don't like my movie, then I hate you and you're a meanie head and my followers will ruin your life. Bro, Sonic's just like, hey kids, don't do drugs. You don't want to miss this.
Dude, but if you're one of those, just check your insecurities and look at yourself. Don't ruin other people's fun.
And that's what we got with the other fans from Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal. Like, they helped each other out. Now, we're going to jump the gun again, but let's first talk about, what do you know about the Doom series?
Well, I'm aware of the original game. I didn't play it. Well, I did play it inside of the Doom games because there was an Easter egg, but just 5 minutes. And I did play both of them. I didn't finish Doom Eternal, but I did complete all Doom. The newest one, like the remake, let's say.
The 2016 Doom?
Yeah.
From my experience with Doom, like, it mainly came from me, like, thinking, like, oh, this guy looks sort of like Master Chief from Halo, but he's much more aggressive. Whereas Master Chief is the sort of guy that pretty much be like, sir, finishing this fight. Doom guy would pretty much be more like, rip and tear. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's more reserved. He just kills. That's it.
He kills, which is fine by me.
Same here.
But what makes Doom Eternal interesting is the fact that it has more of a story than the other games. Like, not to say that like the games have they feel like arcades, but it's just when you look at the first Doom game from like the 90s, the main point is just to shut up and kill, take down all these demons, take down everyone from hell, and what makes the game stand out is the fact that you have stuff like, your little avatar, like, is just looking left and right and making an aggressive, blood-eating grin that looks like he can do some serious damage, unless he gets damaged himself and starts getting bruises in the face.
Yeah, that's most of the first-person games.
Especially at the time, where it was pretty much like a 3D engine, but you have 2D sprites, which was kind of a cool idea. Especially back then, where like most of the games that were like that were on their computer, so pretty much stuff like Windows 95 or 98 can run it no problem. And meanwhile, if you wanted to get some more hardcore games on the stuff like the SNES or the Sega Master Drive, Genesis, Saturn, you can get them, but they won't be as hardcore as Doom. I mean, Doom has stuff like sounds that sound more realistic, graphics that feel a little more hardcore. You have the 3D map, 3D environment. It just feels much more fulfilling for an old game. all that matters is just the fact that you have a PC that can work and no problem.
Yeah, like back then and even now, you need a good PC for it to run.
And of course, like this was a feature that was, or like a system that was used for the likes of Duke Nukem 3D as well as Wolfenstein 3D. Now, Duke Nukem I have a soft spot for just because the character is one of those like no nonsense '90s guys that's all macho American, uh, take no crap sort of guy. And Wolfenstein, I don't know anything about Wolfenstein, but Doom I have some knowledge about, and I still want to learn more about though. So for the most part, the series has been similar in terms of content. Although Doom 2016 was the first game where things took a bit of a different turn. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
For me, well, like aside from the fact that it's like I think the newest game that isn't like a remake or has like a small difference. Like this feels like a bigger difference than what we're used to with the other Doom games, and it's not just for the graphics.
No, it's completely different. Like the only thing they keep is the aesthetic and the designs. That's it.
Yeah, and I think it was Doom 2016 that began like the more story-driven approach of the series with more fleshed out characters for the likes of Doomslayer. Man, I remember some people said that
Yeah.
Doom Eternal was more story-driven in 2016, but that might just be me thinking that okay, this is the more story-driven game, and like honestly, for both cases, for 2016 and Eternal, that's not really much of a bad thing because not to say that the original games suck just because they have a story, but like you might want to try and keep your players interested if you're gonna do a game like this, without trying to make it too similar to something like Metroid or Halo. Which, by the way, Metroid, when's a new game coming out? And Halo Infinite, please look better than your trailer. Thank you.
Yeah, but you just need to see them in their context. That classic Doom game must have been the shit back then, and now it's very bland. If you released it today, of course.
I mean, it
And
depends.
yeah, they tried to add a story which was left in a cliffhanger in the 2016 game and continued here.
Actually, since you mentioned it, like maybe it wouldn't be seen as bland as we think because maybe it depends like what the target like what the market wants because like last year the most popular game was something simple like Among Us where all you do is just do tasks.
Sure.
You're either part of the crew or you're an imposter, and you try to debate over who is the imposter, who's sus, typical stuff. And you either kill people, you either say who's sus, and if you get them out, like you either know that they're an imposter or you get a message saying that they're not an imposter. But it's more like a skill-based game. Like you have to make sure that you're not sus.
Yeah, that's why Fred is not here today. He was kind of sus, so we ejected him out of the ship.
Wait, what about F-Dog?
He was kind of sus too.
I think he ejected himself anyways.
No.
He was like the one gif of that one guy with the dreads doing the peace sign before he disappeared.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's just something about the Doom series that would make it kind of hard to win over because maybe it's just the fact that it's like the old game, if released today, might not win people over unless it was like established before. So I agree. Giving it a bit of a story is not a bad idea, so long as it seems original and fits in with Doom. And Doom Eternal did a good job of expanding what we got with 2016. We now know that Doomslayer is Doom Guy, but with new armor. Like he's still like much more aggressive. He's still like a typical hard stone cold motherfucker with an obsession with killing. And
yeah, bad motherfucker. A game based based on adrenaline, and you're constantly upgrading stuff to be even cooler and a more bad motherfucker. That's the game.
Now remember the fact that Doom 26, like the original Doom game, not 2016, was meant to depict the play. Was meant to have like the character and the icon like be the player, almost like you're inserting yourself into the game. Although that would require like customizing the character.
Because there was no dialogue, I think, from the main character.
Not that I know of. Like the one, if there was dialogue in a game like that, my guess would be it's just Duke Nukem, maybe Wolfenstein, but I've not seen anything from Wolfenstein yet.
Wolfenstein was interesting, but we'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, once I get the time to like delve into him, but first I gotta delve into my collection of Mario games from 3D All Stars, which I got. Feels weird to talk about it. Feels weird to talk about it after like doing a review on it many episodes ago, with the mindset of, hey, I played the games before, and I just saw like the reviews on it. No one know the difference. Now they know.
How do you know?
But truthfully speaking, I like the fact that they gave Doom Eternal a story, but it doesn't feel like it's like not supposed to be there. It fits in with the context of the franchise as a whole, where it's pretty much like it's not like it's not like they're gonna give Doomslayer or Doom Guy like a backstory that's on the same level as someone from another series like maybe Uncharted, because that's not the point. Like the point is to see what makes him want to kill, and that's just what he is when he was in hell. Like he's obsessed with it. Like he's too unstoppable. Like you can't, like if you can't take down the charging bull, don't swing the red cape.
Yeah, like basically, what made the game initially, what made the game iconic, it's still there, and it's still the best part of the game. And the story is just a plus. It's like an addition, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it won't annoy you. It's not there because it is there. It's there because people took care of it and they pieced stuff together, and it is cool.
And more importantly, it's not trying to like contradict stuff. It's just as done minimally as possible. It's sort of like a story in a Mario game, where the main thing is just you have to rescue Princess Peach, but you have these things to collect in the meantime. Like it's not going to be like an overarching story unless it was an RPG, or if it was Mario Sunshine, where it's got a lot of dialogue, clunky dialogue, but dialogue nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't expect the story, sort of like Far Cry, let's say, that won't happen. Even though the both of them are first-person shooters, it won't happen.
Yeah, like with Far Cry, I made it sound like Far. I was trying to say Far Cry. Like with Far Cry, it's just like with Far Cry. With Far Cry, the thing about it is the fact that like it does what it needs to do in terms of story, where like there's not much you need to expect from it or worry about expecting from it. If you want a more story-driven game, stick with Uncharted or Red Dead Redemption, because those fit well, especially considering the fact that their franchises were made with a story in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which that itself is also great, because like the main thing is just like the fact that you can kill your enemies and be as strong as ever when you're taking on lots of bad guys as Doom Guy or Doom Slayer. So as you mentioned, the story is a bonus. It's not the main part of it. But if you want to see a story that involves Doom but not done well, stick with the movie adaptations. Now we got to talk about one thing that fascinated me about Doom Eternal. We already mentioned earlier, it was the fact that Doom fans and Animal Crossing fans surprisingly helped each other out.
Oh yeah, talk about that, please.
Like, it's one thing to see characters from different franchises team up. We've seen it with Smash Brothers plenty of times, and we saw that once with the PlayStation All-Stars game. But to have Doom Guy with Isabelle from Animal Crossing is just kind of a surprise because no one, and I mean no one, saw that coming. Neither did I.
Oh yeah, nobody expected that. Yeah, sorry, I'm having that connection.
But like the thing about these two franchises is that you have one that's about killing, shooting, murder, explosions, gore, whereas the other one is about wholesomeness, characters doing tasks, characters talking to each other, Nintendo style. They have nothing in common with each other, yet surprisingly, they teamed up in a crossover far more ambitious than Infinity Endgame. A meme so dead that people don't mention it anymore, unless it's on YouTube.
I'm so tired of that meme.
Well, I apologize for mentioning it, but hey, at least it fits well for something like this.
It does. It deserves to be revived.
And it's one thing to see, like Nintendo put up a picture of Mario waving at Microsoft for their birthday or anniversary. But to see fans actually post fan art of, Doomslayer and Isabelle switching places, where she's the one that's killing the demons, and it's Doomslayer that's like catching butterflies and enjoying himself. That's surprising, but still kind of cute in the fact that they're helping each other out. And there's also the GIF
You get
of
the best of both worlds.
Hannah Montana style. And then you have stuff like GIFs where you have uh, Doomslayer saying "rip" and Isabelle in typical Animal Crossing fashion says "and tear," but more like I think like that, yeah. Like that's cool and cute too. And of course, we got memes like femboys or tomboys saying stuff like "I want one copy of Animal Doom It." And of course, we have tomboys going to GameStop and saying, "I want to buy one copy of Doom Eternal, please." While you have big guys like Macho Men coming to the GameStop and saying stuff like, "I want to buy one copy of Animal Crossing New Horizons on a Nintendo Switch, please." If you're a GameStop employee that's watching this video, tell me you never saw that coming. Or better yet, tell me if you expected that to happen. I want to see a poll, which may or may not happen, but whatever. Like, you compare that to the Sonic the Hedgehog and Birds of Prey debate, and like, admittedly, like Doom Eternal is a game that I enjoy, but mainly because I want to learn more about the Doom series, whereas Animal Crossing isn't quite my thing. I mean, my preferred thing about Nintendo is Mario, as we all know. But that's not only surprising, but kind of proof that you have two different fan bases that helped each other out, which can't be said for Sonic and Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I think the lesson is that despite we all have different interests and passions, but that shouldn't be a reason or justify any kind of action that divides us and makes us fight over stupid things.
And more importantly, it's proof that those two fan bases helped each other out by gaining the games and their favorite franchises during the pandemic.
And they were a success.
That being said, will we get something like this in any other year or so? Will we get something like Lego Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker fans helping out Gotham Knights fans? I don't know. It's not like they're gonna have Lego Darth Vader hang out with Lego with a Arkham series style Batgirl, are they? I don't know. But
I wouldn't mind it.
But that being said, this game, Doom Eternal, is great to play and is also proof that, like we already mentioned, the fan bases helping each other out, but at least they're happy to experience something like this before the world started to go messed up in 2020. Ironically, something that would fit with 2020 is happening in a few days as we're speaking, because of Super Mario 3D All Stars as well as Mario in Super Mario 35 or Tetris is going to be pulled back because of its being a limited release, which sounds like a 2020 thing. And considering the fact
So,
that people are going to experience the Mario recall on March 31st, that's kind of a huge contradiction from what we're used to.
so I think as a conclusion, I would say that if you want to fucking destroy demons and run around like a crazy lunatic, go play Doom Eternal. And also, just while you have a break of it, go and play Animal Crossing like a total badass.
Oh, that's very wholesome. But yeah, definitely give both games a shot. I mean, I wouldn't personally like play Animal Crossing constantly. I mean, I would more likely play Super Mario 64 because that's the kind of game I'm more familiar with. But that being said, enjoy Animal Crossing New Horizons while you still can. Enjoy Doom Eternal while you still can. And I realize I shouldn't say while you still can because both games are going to be around. I can't see the same for Super Mario 3D
Yeah,
All Stars. That game's going to
no,
be
but
called.
the other two games are going to be a long time there in the market or anywhere.
Yeah, especially Animal Crossing since they're going to have DLC for years to come.
Oh, yeah. Updates and updates and updates, for sure.
And now I'm going to try and get myself a Doomslayer action figure. But if not, there's always the Doomicorn, which is a awesome take on Doom guy wearing unicorn armor.
Or you can paint Master Chief and make it similar to Doom's later.
I don't know. Doomslayer is a bit beefier than Master Chief, and Master Chief is like taller than him.
Caesars.
Nah, that's not going to work. But that covers today's episode. A fairly short one, but hey, we're going to try and experiment with future episodes to basically downscale, but not go severely downscale. And that's all we have to say. Thanks for stopping by, Tobs.
You are welcome. We'll see each other next time.
And next time you'll see us will probably be on April Fool's, as well as the Monsterverse episode before we do a bit of a soft reboot and talk about 3 subject matters. But until then, take care.